fellow Earthlings, and welcome to another episode of the Conspiracy Broadcast Channel. I'm your host, the voice of reason, broadcasting from deep within the heart of Indiana. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the alien abduction phenomenon. I am having coffee and cherry pie right now in the tradition of David Lynch and Twin Peaks. A salute to David Lynch, rest in peace. One of my favorite directors and filmmakers. It's a tragic loss when someone such a creative mind like that is gone, lost, but maybe not. Who knows where they are? Does energy die? I don't know. Maybe it transforms. I'm sure, let alone the impact that he's left on this planet with his creations. I'm sure that energy lives on somewhere in maybe a purer form, perhaps. But of course, that's probably getting into another topic for another episode. With this one, I was watching a YouTube channel, and maybe that's what this channel is going to be. It's going to be a recommendation of other YouTube channels, because I don't particularly fancy myself much of a content creator or someone who's going to have a channel that's going to take off or become popular or contribute too much value into the entertainment sphere, but perhaps I could be good at recommending other channels. And there's this one channel which I'm subscribed to. It's I think I'm subscribed to on another channel of mine, but it's called Eyes on Cinema, and it's fantastic. It basically, there's nobody talking, no narration, no annoying monotone voice guy telling giving advice or opinions. It's basically just video clips, and this one popped up, and I decided to watch it. I was like, I needed to get out of the office chair and kick back, relax, and watch something. And it was just a lot of cases that I'd never heard of, abduction cases from around the world. And when you see it in that format, basically each one was maybe about a 30-second clip or so with someone being interviewed, 30 seconds to a minute, and back to back, and they're all all these people are describing the same experience or a similar experience of being abducted, having medical procedures carried out on them. And it really puts things into perspective. It makes you realize, hey, something's going on here, to the average person, because even me, who's I'm not so much as a skeptic. I've researched a lot, and so I know I've read enough and seen enough and heard enough to know that the phenomenon is real, and it's not just a bunch of crackpots claiming to have had these experiences with extraterrestrials. And so I've probably recently come around to the idea, because I may have been a little bit skeptical to the idea and the notion of alien abduction, and I thought maybe that's taking things a little too far. People are getting a little too sort of wound up, and we're really going into the fantasy realm here with the abduction sort of phenomenon. But I mean, without even too much proof, if we contemplate and understand that the universe is a universe of infinite time and space, and extraterrestrial beings are, in fact, visiting and observing us, they have quite advanced technology, no doubt. And this is what got me about the alien abduction phenomenon, because I've read books where they're claiming that they'd be asleep in bed and these beings would come in through the walls or materialize and come into their rooms and just abduct them or visit them. And I thought, that seems a little far-fetched and ridiculous, but I'd recently sort of put the two together, and I thought, because I was thinking about the technology that's involved in producing and achieving interstellar travel, and of course you hear of the incredible maneuvers that flying saucers, UFOs can achieve, like right angle sort of maneuvers, just stopping on a dime and then switching angle, like vector angles almost, just like no curving, just quick stop and then shooting off in another direction. So I thought, well, with that kind of technology and the ability to maneuver through time and space in that manner, of course, that's not the only thing they would have developed with thousands of years in advance of what how our technologies evolved. Of course, other technologies evolve. Here on planet Earth, we see that our technology evolves over time. We don't just develop vehicle technology. We develop computer technology, display technologies, and all sorts of scientific instruments for measuring and propulsion systems, vehicles, electric vehicles and everything else. So things do evolve in advance, and of course aliens would possess, if they have the technology for interstellar travel, the rest of their technology is bound to be pretty incredible and quite far in advance. If they can defy the laws of physics in their vehicles, it's probably easy for them to sort of defy time and space and enter people's houses and abduct them as they see fit. Now that's quite a scary thing to contemplate, I know, but now it all seems quite plausible. I mean, if we accept the idea that extraterrestrial beings are here observing, visiting us from faraway star systems, the technology to achieve that would be hundreds, if not thousands of years in advance of what we're capable of as human beings, and our, couple hundred years of wielding, machinery and modern technology. So it's not too much of a stretch to accept the idea that they could pretty much pluck us out of our beds at any time they want to, really. That wouldn't be a problem for them. Put us back, and and we'd be none the wiser. Well, we would know, but the people around us may not. If they could be put into a trance, paralyzed, temporarily, and sedated somehow, as the reports have documented. So, even for me, someone who's been aware of UFOs, the alien phenomenon, to understand that and to just finally accept that aspect of the alien abduction phenomenon, I think I consider myself to be a fairly open-minded person. So I guess that itself was quite a step for me. So for the average person, of course, they're not really going to accept any possibility that could happen. That would just be written off as insanity and silliness and just crackpot behavior. But I feel that yeah, these things are possible. They're they're definitely happening, and with the amount of reports on the subject from people, and this was back in the 90s, 80s, 70s, going back even further. I think the most popular case, the Betty and Barney Hill case, that was the most widely known and reported instance of alien abduction, and still a lot of people wouldn't believe that, but that made mainstream news, and back in the day, I guess. And one of my favorites, of course, is the Travis Walton case. That's a real hard one to dismiss. The fact that he'd gone missing for 5 days and returned when he was in hospital, and they were sort of testing him and just running a few tests to see what had happened. They discovered he hadn't eaten or drank any water or anything for 5 days, and that's a really interesting case. It puts a lot of things into perspective, because it makes us realize, at least the ones that abducted him are benign, peaceful, perhaps, and definitely not hostile, because it appears that when he, for those of you who've never heard of the case, that he this was back in the 70s, I think 75. Him and his friends were coming back from work. They'd finished work. They were logging, cutting down trees in Arizona, and they had it was getting dark, and they were driving along a forest road, saw a light sort of hovering above the trees, and then they sort of came up right onto it. It was in the clearing next to them off the road, and he gets out, Travis Walton gets out. He's underneath, he approaches it because he's feeling a little brave and bold and, adventurous as a young man would. And, he said he was trying to show off, to his friends when he describes it. And, gets underneath, and then he gets blasted by a bolt of light or something like that, and the rest of the crew freak out. His buddy Mike Rogers, he was driving, he takes off, and then they leave him there because they thought the thing had killed him, so they thought they were going to get killed. They hightailed it out of there, and then I guess later on down the road he kind of had a moment of clarity and decided to go back and help, see if he could help his friend. Of course, he was missing. And, he'd gone missing for 5 days. The town thought that he'd been murdered, and the crew had murdered him or something. And he comes back, and I think he called his brother, and picked him up at a gas station just outside of town, I think. Sorry, I need to take a sip of this damn coffee. And in the movie, it's shown Mike Rogers comes and gets him. His brother comes along, but I think in reality, Travis actually called his brother to pick him up outside of Snowflake, Arizona. Maybe it was in a town called Show Low or something like that, or Snow Low. But yeah, it was a town slightly outside the one he lives. Probably a little closer to the forest, because of course the aliens, I'm not sure if they checked his driver's license or anything like that. But funnily enough, actually, I have gone through that town. I was driving through Arizona one night, and that was the first time I'd driven across the United States from California. And that I was coming across here to Indiana and visiting family and stuff, and then I was heading on to Boston to deliver a car. I was a backpacker, of course. I was staying in Huntington Beach, and I was like, I don't know if California's for me. It's a little big and crazy from what I'm used to, coming from a small little country, New Zealand, where I was born. And I just found this driveway sort of deal, this company, that it's a industry where they get people to deliver cars. You drive them across rather than them being transported across. Whether it's a car dealer or a private person, it's a great way to they give you a bit of travel allowance. But yeah, I'd just gone seen the Grand Canyon, then I was heading across. I can't remember which way I was going. I was heading across Arizona anyway, guess towards New Mexico. And I thought, well, I looked on the map, and this was before, smartphones. I was just a young man in his very early 20s, 21, maybe 22. And I checked, I saw Snowflake wasn't too far down there, so I thought I'd take a little detour. And middle of the night, I was down there and feeling a little uneasy, stopped in the town, bought a root beer for 25 cents. This was back in the late 90s, I guess. And 25-cent root beer. You would never find that again. And the town looks a lot different from what it is in the movie. It's still very small, and there's hardly anything there. And it's very, very isolated. And anyway, yeah, that was a little digression from from the story, but there you have it. I've been there. I've been to Snowflake, Arizona. So yeah, he gets returned back on story. Travis gets returned to Earth, and they find out he's been without food or water. And the fact that he said he woke up while he was there in the being abducted. He found himself in a smaller craft, and then I think he was later on let out to a bigger craft, so he's in like a mothership or something like that. But when he woke up, he was pretty startled because he thought he was in hospital, but instead he was like surrounded by strange beings, which he managed to get the energy to lash out to one of them. But I think he said it was more of a shove than a punch or anything like that, because he just didn't have the energy, and he had some sort of contraption, some like metal type box laying over his chest that he believes was probably something that was actually healing him. So to me, obviously, and to him, he says that he was being healed and repaired by these beings, and for them to sort of care enough about one human, that they'd accidentally sort of shot with their booster or gravitational displacement beam to to get out of there. That obviously says that they're not a hostile race, and if they were hostile, we'd know about it. We probably wouldn't have as much freedom as we do right now, and freedom to travel around, do as we please, and freedom to actually cause harm and destroy the planet, which is what we're doing. So it's obvious that they're passive observers in this scenario, which to me also I find a little disappointing that because right now on planet Earth, we do, as a race, need a bit of help, and it'd be nice if they'd come in and guide us in the right direction, But it seems that that's not one of their directives, and that's the way it is. So, yeah, that is just scraping the surface, really, of the whole alien abduction phenomenon. But I'm as someone who absolutely, without any question or doubt, accepted the reality of the UFO phenomenon and the existence of UFOs, extraterrestrial beings and craft observing our planet. Obviously here there's just too much evidence to deny. And not really accepting the fact that the abduction phenomenon is a thing. That to me was something that was like, possibly, but maybe, I don't know. It seems a little out there, but after watching this video the other night on that channel, Eyes on Cinema, it's called, and seeing all the interviews and the documented cases, it seems highly possible and logical that there is an intervention of some kind. People are being, studied, perhaps experimented on, having DNA, whatever else, extracted from them. I think that is a possibility. In terms of my experience, I haven't really had too much. I've seen a few things in the sky when I lived in Australia in broad daylight in the middle of the park. Just I was laying down in the park, Edinburgh Gardens in Melbourne. If anyone knows where that is, a lot of people just go there to hang out in summertime and just drink beer and hang out. And I was there with my girlfriend. We were just laying down, nice warm sunny day. Had my sunglasses on. I was looking up in the sky, and I kind of saw these strange objects. Like there was a lot of them. There was like probably about at least 20, and they kind of seemed to be just floating by. They were about the size of a star, but I could see them in broad daylight. And they seemed to be, they weren't like balloons, because they seemed to be flying in a formation. Of like, they seemed to be in groups of 3. And I was quite curious. So I looked up online, and sure enough, people had filmed these things even at nighttime in the same kind of formation, like groups of 3, like a triangular formation. They sort of seem to form. And, I know what planes look like. I've traveled the world. I've been in many planes, more than I can count. I'm always looking up in the sky. I know how things maneuver, balloons float, and these things were... They were very high up in the sky, and they kept a formation, which I don't know if, it wouldn't have been a hot air balloon. They were just too high for that. I mean, maybe something like a weather balloon might be able to keep that altitude, but, they seem to maintain a formation. And that was one of my experiences. And another one that I had personally, I used to, there was a time I had an apartment, and I was just living alone, and I'd do my workouts, during the week, but I would take Wednesday off just to enjoy life, and I'd go out and go get dinner and stuff, because I was working Monday to Friday, and I thought I'd just break up the week with treat myself on a Wednesday. Go out and get a pizza or something like that, or a pub meal. Like there's plenty of good places to eat in Melbourne, Australia. So I was down. I think it was Brunswick Street, actually. No, it was Sydney Road in Brunswick, and I lived in West Brunswick. So I was walking home, and I was going. It was dark, and I was walking home sort of past this park area, which there were no street lights or lampposts along this sort of stretch. It was fairly dark, and I was just walking home, and I experienced like a flash of light. It was like a beam of light, and it flashed at me, and it was only sort of wide enough. It was like imagine having a spotlight sort of just flashed at you, sort of cast on you. But it was very narrow. It only sort of surrounded my, maybe a circle, a little wider than my, my body and my footprint, So I kind of, my initial thoughts were, because it was, it was like a flash. It was kind of like a lightning flash, but except it only illuminated like a spotlight type area of me, which I thought was kind of strange. And I was like, my immediate thought was, because in Melbourne, Australia, there's always, police helicopters flying around. Obviously there's a little bit of crime there. It's a great city, but there is some crime. There are some idiots like everywhere else in the world. And I thought, oh, it's probably a helicopter, and it's probably, this is how my brain works. I don't just think, oh, it's a spotlight. It's like I was thinking, oh, it is a police helicopter, and they're kind of just flashing some sort of like high-powered, infrared sort of targeting beam at me. That was my initial thought. Because I know a lot about kind of, military technology and stuff like that, and it's kind of like, I don't think the average person thinks that, when they get flashed by a beam of light, oh, it's just a police chopper flashing infrared targeting beam at me. They might just be practicing or something to lock onto a human target or something like that. So, they see some guy walking home by himself, so give him a flash, and that was my initial thought. And so in that time, it was only like a split second or whatever, but it was enough time for me to sort of, because I was just looking really at the ground in front of me, and I could see the ground below me illuminated, as it flashed. And I had time to look up, and in the sky, I kind of just saw, the end, like briefly, of, a small light just dimming, from the flash. As though, when you turn a torch out, the light kind of closes out just a little bit after. So I thought, oh, that obviously there's a chopper up there, but, it was, I think it was a clear sky. It was pretty clear out. I don't think there was a moon out, so I was able to see a lot of stars. And from where I saw the light, the source of the light close out, I didn't see anything else above it. I was expecting to see like a black silhouette or something of a chopper, but there was no silhouette, no noise, no evidence of anything being up there. And that was it. And I kind of just walked home and thought that was strange, and I haven't really thought of it until recently, but that was one strange experience. Like, I mean, I don't know, I don't think lightning works that way. There was no storm or anything, it was a clear night. There was no other objects. There was no street light, above me, which had come on, because it seemed like it was probably about, I don't know, maybe like 7 to 10 stories above me. That's what I could gauge from my, from the way, I could sort of gauge distance and how far away the source of the light felt. And, possibly it could have been further, because I couldn't see anything that would actually be able to produce that kind of light. So that was a strange experience, and I got home thinking about it, because it was a little weird, and I didn't have any missing time or anything like that. It was just, it was just a normal night. I got to bed at a reasonable time so I could get up for work in the morning, and yeah, that was that. But that was really strange, and without really. I don't know what else would do that or could produce that effect, but it seems odd. It seemed deliberate, So I do believe, and I'm sure that there's other things and beings out there watching us, and this is really just scraping the surface of the whole phenomenon. There is plenty of evidence out there. So I guess this episode's kind of going on for a while, and I'll knock it on the head right now, but definitely go and check out Eyes on Cinema. It's a great channel, and it has a lot of cases documented. It's a treasure trove, and it's an archive in itself. I think it's great that things like that exist. So I'll close this episode off, and I hope to have you all back as an audience in the next one. And I guess keep your eyes to the sky.